All right, we're going to try and wrap this up because I don't have any idea what I did to my notes here. So let's remember here in I have a thing saying I want to do this thing and add this over here, and it's kind of like the way people figure out Revelation, right? I got a piece here and insert it over there and carry the 3, and I just want to make sure I wrote a number here that I'm supposed to stick in, and I don't remember if I actually covered it or not, which I probably did, if I can find it. Number 5. Where's number 5? There is no number 5. Oh, knowledge puffs up. Okay, I did cover that. That was 1 Corinthians 8. We know about that. Also, I wanted to mention in 1 Corinthians 10, it says, and these things came upon them as examples, as they were written as a warning to us, on whom the end of the ages have come. Verse 12, so that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed, lest he fall. And if you think you got it figured out, doesn't that verse apply to you? As soon as you think you got it figured out, be careful. There's your warning. That's why you should sit there going, look, this is my best guess. This is how I see things right now. Because guess what? You've already changed your mind on so many things over the last however many years. Why would you ever think that that may not happen again on some of these issues? Because being right is not what's the point. Wanting to be right is the point. Trying to be right is the point. Because you know what? If your heart is right and you're trying to be right and you want to be right, when he comes and sets it all right, you'll be so quick to just move over to the thing that's right. But if you're strangle-holding your pet doctrine, you may even argue with the Messiah. Oh, no. I figured this all out. I beat up a lot of people over this. No. I'm not moving over to that. What? You have to be ready to lay it all down because you are going to be wrong. I'm sorry. Something you've got is going to be wrong. Maybe more than one thing. And I can't tell you which one it's going to be. Of course, some of your friends want to tell you which one it's going to be. It's the one they don't agree with you about. Oh, I can tell you which one you're going to be wrong about. No, you don't know. You don't know. 1 Peter 5. I was going to say in conclusion, but did I ever tell you the in conclusion joke? We didn't do that one? A father takes his son to the big services, because in a lot of congregations they have like a kid service like, we have here, and then there's the big service. First time he's old enough to come to the big service, and he's asking all kinds of questions. Well, why are they doing that? And what's this? And, every time something happens different that he never got to see before, he's like, what's that going on? And the father's sitting there patiently, oh, that's this, and explaining. And then they get to the sermon part, and the teacher's teaching, and, at some point the teacher said something, the kid goes, oh, what's that mean? And says another thing. And finally at some point he goes, in conclusion, and he goes, what's that mean, Daddy? He says, unfortunately, son, absolutely nothing. About another 20 minutes. Doesn't mean a thing, son. Hate to tell you. 1 Peter, whatever I said, 5. So you guys have an important role to keep me on track. Verse 5. In the same way, you younger ones, be subject to elders and gird yourself with humility toward one another. For Elohim resists the proud but gives favor to the humble. Gird yourselves with humility toward one another. Well, I don't see a lot of that in the body. I see a lot of proud and prideful approaches. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to straighten you out. I'm smarter. I know something you don't know. There's no humility in that. He says, humble yourselves then under the mighty hand of Elohim so that he exalts you in due time. I don't know about you. I want to get exalted in due time. So I better start working on the humble word. Humble yourself. That's why every time I say this stuff, I'm telling you I'm preaching to me first. Okay? I don't think for one second I have any of this stuff fixed and figured out perfectly. He says, casting all your worry upon him, for he is concerned about you. So don't worry all about everybody else. Cast it on him. Let him handle it. If you think your brother's all messed up, ask the Father to fix it. Don't you take it in your hands to fix it. Not your job. We have a problem understanding where our job borders are. We have boundary issues, He says, be sober, watch, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in the belief, knowing that the same hardships are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. And the Elohim of all favor, who called you to this everlasting esteem by Messiah Yeshua, after you have suffered a while, himself perfect, establish and strengthen you and settle you. Now, what did we start out with? The prayer that Yeshua said was, Father, let them be one as we are one, so that the world will know that you sent me. And the roaring lion is sitting there going, I'm going to get the babes, the immature ones, the stragglers, the weak ones, and I'm going to stir them up. I'm going to eat them right up, get them all emotional, get them offended. There's his best weapon. I'm going to let them get offended. Get that root of bitterness. Oh, that's a good tool. Yeah, I'm going to cause this one over here to offend that one over there, and then this one over here offend that one over there. And then this one will get offended because that one over there got offended by that one. And how do we have that happen? Because we haven't gotten control of our emotions. We're the opposite of where we need to be. We're thin-skinned and hard-hearted. We need to be thick-skinned and soft-hearted. You have to allow that space for the Father to work with the person, not you, not your job. Not unless he uses you by them being led to you asking for help. Asking for help. 1 Corinthians 13, we'll wrap with that, and then I have one verse after that. How does that work? We'll wrap with that, then I have one verse after that. And if you're going to hold me to that, I was with a group one time, I said, I've got one more verse. I said, that doesn't mean I don't have 20 more minutes, I just have one more verse. And I do apologize, I have no idea how long I went, I didn't look at the clock, but I'm trying to get this message out completely. I'm your guest speaker. This is what he has me going around from congregation to congregation sharing. Okay? Amen. So, if you're worried about the clock, you're focused on the wrong thing. It's the Sabbath. You've got another couple hours before you have to worry about leaving anywhere. And if your stomach's grumbling, that's okay. You know, fasting and being hungry is supposed to get you more focused. So it's okay if your stomach's grumbling. Don't be looking out there to the oneg. Because I can go another hour if I wanted to. We won't. I've only got a couple more verses here. 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 1. And nobody's fallen out of a windowsill yet because I keep it in first floor gyms like this, so we're safe. Oh, I've just barely gone over an hour. Come on, we're not doing that bad. 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 1. First of all, if I had said to you, where's the love chapter, would you have known this? Okay? I mean, there's certain things you should know. When I ask you, where is the fruit of the Spirit listed? Do you know? Raise your hand if you know where that's listed. Somebody tell me. You raise your hand. Galatians what? Galatians 5:22, 23. Do you know, where's the Torah listed? In how many places? The Ten Commandments. How many places? Where is it listed? Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. You got to know this simple stuff. You know, it says in here, and I have the verse, but we didn't get there, prepare to give an answer. Now, by the way, it doesn't say prepare to give an answer as to why you believe the calendar is the way it is. Prepare to give an answer about your belief in your salvation, belief in the plan of the Father, the belief in Messiah. It doesn't say about, you know, because somebody said to me, well, you know, it says I got to be prepared to give an answer about what I believe about. No, not about everything. It says why you believe in this, in the salvation that's delivered to you by the Mashiach's sacrifice that puts you back in relationship with the Father so you ultimately could live with him forever. That's what it says. That's the verse. That's the words. I could find it in my notes, but I don't want to go back through 5 pieces of paper trying to figure out where that verse is. But that verse is there. By the way, you know the verse that says, do not be unequally yoked with people that believe in the crescent or conjunction. What does it say? Unbelievers. Do you really think the person that sees the calendar different than you is an unbeliever? Is that really what that's how we act? Because we don't want to be yoked with them. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Not people that see these things different. They're still believers. They just see some of the things a little different in the details. Everybody on all of these issues believes that there's a creator. They all believe that there's a Messiah. They may argue about the nature of the Messiah, but they still believe he's the Messiah. And they believe that he died and that he was resurrected on the third day and is sitting at the right hand of the Father. All of them do. Even the ones that think he was just a man and not deity. They still think he did everything he was supposed to do and is now sitting at the right hand. I speak to them, I know. I talk to everybody. So in the big picture of things, we're still all agreeing about the important stuff, aren't we? We agree Yeshua's Mashiach. We agree he did everything he was supposed to do and will finish what he was supposed to do when he comes back and finishes everything. Yes? No? Everybody on all sides of this stuff believes that. They all agree Torah is to be kept. We're just a little bit shaky on agreeing on the details. But we all agree it's to be kept. We all agree we should keep the Shabbat. There are some that say the lunar Shabbat, some that say Saturday. But they're still trying to keep the Shabbat. It's not like when Jeroboam moved the feasts to keep people away from truth. People are trying to figure it out. They just see it different. The crescent, the conjunction, the Aviv, the equinox, they're still trying to keep the feasts. So when one group thinks that it has to be off by a month from another group because of how they see it, they're not moving it like Jeroboam did. Nobody here has the spirit of Jeroboam that I've ever talked to. Okay? They're all honestly crying out with all their might to get it right. Aren't you? And there's probably a mix here of how people see things. And you're all nodding your head. Yes, we're trying hard to get it right. That qualifies for Deuteronomy 8:3 and 8:2. You're trying to get it right. Your heart is right. But now for your heart to really be right, you have to be okay that your brother sees it different. You have to be okay with that. 1 Corinthians 13, if I speak with the tongues of men and of messengers, but do not have love, I have become as sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. Now listen to verse 2. If I have prophecy and know all things and have all knowledge. Wow, that's pretty good. Then I get to win on the game show and I get qualified for, Survivor the Kingdom and I get in. No. That's the game we all think we're playing, if you have all knowledge. He says, look, if I have all knowledge and if I have all prophecy and I have all of this stuff, and if I have all belief as to move the mountains, but if I don't have love, it's of no avail. I have nothing. But yet we become Gnostic. All we're doing is pursuing knowledge. It's all about figuring it all out, because somehow figuring it all out is going to get you somewhere. Not going to get you anywhere until you can figure out this part, the weightier stuff. Where's the love in all of it? Read the whole chapter. The whole chapter goes into all of these things. Love does this, love does that. Love is patient, verse 4. It's kind. It doesn't envy. It doesn't boast. It's not puffed up. Doesn't behave indecently. Doesn't seek its own. Is not provoked. Reckons not the evil. Does not rejoice over the unrighteousness, but rejoices in truth. It covers all, believes all, expects all, endures all. Love never fails. If you have that for your brother, which you're supposed to have, it would cover all this other nonsense. And I'm sorry to call figuring out the calendar nonsense, but the way you treat it, it becomes nonsense. Because it's costing you, ultimately, your salvation because you're dropping everything else for this one little thing that you're holding on to. Do you know how they catch spider monkeys in the wilderness? You guys all know the story about the spider monkeys? You take like a big giant gourd, they cut a hole in it just big enough for the spider monkey to squeeze his hand in, and they stick a fruit in there that just barely fits through the hole in the gourd, and it'll stick its hand in there, grab the fruit, but now holding the fruit, its hand's too big. It can't come out. You can walk right up and put a collar on that monkey. He will never let go of that fruit to run away. Don't we get that way sometimes with these pet doctrines? We're so focused on this one thing, we miss the sight of everything else. And that's where our problem is. Paul's making it, how could you get more clear than this? Look, if I know everything about everything and have all of it perfect, if I don't have love, it's of no point. It's completely worthless. Who wants to spend forever with some big smarty person who's not loving? Look, this may sound really profound, but can you not tell me at least 3 or 4 people you know that are Christmas, Easter, pork-eating, shrimp-eating, Sunday-keeping people that are the most wonderful people on the planet, you wouldn't mind living with them forever? Now, can't you tell me at least a half a dozen messianics who are obnoxious, pompous, and in your face who you wouldn't want to spend 5 minutes with? What does that tell you? That knowledge is not what's the criteria that you would use. Would you rather spend forever with the pork-eating? You know what? It's easier for the pork-eating, Sunday-keeping Christmas person to change that than for you, if it's you, to become loving and soft-hearted. It's an easier change. They've just not been called to see it yet. But they've got the character. It's harder to change the character than the actions of the observances. Was it really that tough to stop eating pork and shrimp and all that stuff? Honestly. I know you liked some of it, but was it really tough? I mean, like mechanically, is it a difficult thing to actually figure out which stuff not to eat? No. Was it really that tough to switch from Sunday to Saturday? Like, did you have to think about it every week going, oh, what day am I supposed to do? No, you need to switch. Okay, Sunday, Saturday. Is it really that tough to switch to the feast days? There's 7 of the high holy days amongst the 5 feasts, or to give up Christmas. Was that tough? I mean, was it difficult to figure out and remember how to do? No. How about changing character? How about tolerating what you don't like to tolerate? Being patient with those you don't want to be patient with. That's the tough one. Am I making sense? Yeah. Don't you think the Father, who's smarter than all of us, knows that? He may just decide to use some of those Sunday keepers and just say, I'll just show them the right Torah and just, they got the right character. Because you guys, even though you have the right Torah, you guys just don't know how to want to treat each other. And I don't want to live with you guys forever. Amen. Listen, I don't want to be blasphemous saying that, but I mean, it's up to him what he wants to do. He's choosing who he wants to live forever with. Okay? And if I had to choose somebody to live forever with, it'd be the person that's going to treat me respectfully, with love, with patience and mercy, and meekness and gentleness and kindness, and all that stuff in Galatians 5:22. And I don't care what day they keep. Because first I want to care about how they care about me, then I can worry about what day they keep. Right? But you guys all worried about what day you keep and don't care how you're treating anybody. That's the problem. Back and forth, right? Last thing, Psalm 133. We all know what verses this is going to be. How good and how pleasant for brethren to argue with each other over the calendar. Do you know what's the funniest thing about all this? There's only but 3 or 4 things we argue about. It's not like we disagree about 75 different things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it really just comes down to 4 or 5 things. And we're letting that keep us all apart. Psalm 133, verse 1. See how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity, like the precious oil on the head running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes, like the dew of Hermon, that comes down on the mountains of Zion. For there Yahweh commanded the blessing, life forever. Use the picture in your head of seeing the brothers dwelling together in unity has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the world. It runs down the beard like the oil and then anoints everything else. Because what did Yeshua say in Yochanan in John 17? Father, their unity shows the world that you sent me. Amen? Brothers, please work on the next paradigm shift. Come out of the diapers into maturity. And I don't mean that to be offensive. I'm not trying to make a joke. I'm not trying to belittle it. We are spiritual babes who just have not realized what the weightier matters are that help to bring us into the full maturity of Mashiach. Amen? So I want to encourage us. Let's look in the mirror. Let's not walk away forgetting what we saw. Let's worry about our own plank and not worry so much about the speck. Let's learn to respect everybody in the body, no matter what they believe, because guess what? You were pretty much a mess when you came in, and we treated you hopefully with love, and that's why you stayed. So you have to remember, that's where everybody's in. You know what? It says some are given 1 talent, some are given 5. We're all in different places. We're all in different walks. We're walking out our own salvation in fear and trembling, individually. Respect everybody else as walking their own salvation in fear and trembling, individually. But be there if they come to you to share, and not to beat on them. To share, which means you listen, they listen, you talk, they talk. So that we become fitly knit together as one body, as the verse says. Amen? Amen.